What's happening? This is Isai Rodriguez, host of the Daspination Podcast, where I cater to the professional working man, 40 and above, who's looking to make positive changes to his health, lose weight, and become stronger overall through simple lifestyle changes. I'm here to share inspiration, tips, and proven lessons that I've personally learned and lived through in my 40 plus years on this here beautiful blue planet. So today we'll start the discussion off by talking about, is tea addictive, in our first segment, and then we'll move on to our second segment and talk about everything you need to know about good and bad fats. And before we get into that, if you'd like to join the conversation and take your health and wellness to the next level, get on over to podcast.daspination.com/VIP to enroll in our insiders community, where I share more entertaining behind the scenes stories, tips, and hacks that'll keep you feeling younger each and every day. That's podcast.daspination.com/VIP. Again, that's podcast.daspination.com/VIP. Be in the know starting right now. Also, don't forget to rate me on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you're listening to this episode right now, and leave me a nice, fat, juicy 5-star review and some absolutely beautiful words of why you love the show so much. It really helps me get the word out, and it's honestly the one place where your vote truly matters. Now, let's move into our first segment with Healthy Conversations. Oh yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long time, and that introduction still gets me fired up. So in this week's well, first of all, before we get into Healthy Conversations, so where have I been? So first of all, let me extend my appreciation to those who have actually, reached out to me and, to see how I was doing and where I was, basically, because that really touched me. I was pleasantly surprised to see that, that you guys, my following, you people, this is why I do this, You guys were looking out for me. You guys were checking up on me, saying where I was and things like that. So I really appreciate that. And I don't know if you kind of got the sense of, if you've been following me for any length of time, I've been talking about how we've been gearing up for a move across country, and that move actually happened in the past the past 2 months or so, and we are now on the other side of the U.S. We are no longer on the East Coast. We are now on the West Coast, and let me tell you, it is beautiful out here. The weather, the scenery, the people, we're loving it. But again, thank you very much for all you guys that actually reached out to me to see how I was doing. It was really, I really appreciate that. And but enough about me. We're talking this week on Healthy Conversations. We're answering the question, is tea addictive? And this is a good one because I don't know about you, I love tea. Like, can you actually get addicted to tea in the traditional, in the traditional sense that we know of addiction, So, I think this is a serious question, and one that really needs some explanation, if you ask me. And, as usual, I'd love to try and get to the bottom of this, or at least understand it a little better. So first off, tea is one of the most popular beverages worldwide, hands down, bar none, with maybe the exception of coffee. It comes in a range of varieties, and they all come from, they all come from the same plant. That's the Camellia sinus. I had to write this one down. I can't even say it, sinensis. But it all comes from the same plant. Imagine that, many of the things that make up tea are consistently linked to various health benefits. I'm sure you've probably heard this before, this tea or that tea, like overall it's good for your health, because of this, really, it causes most people to consider tea a healthy, well, let me rephrase that. It's because of this, these links to different health benefits. Like, it's because of this that it causes so many people to consider tea a healthy addition to their diet. And, nonetheless, some people argue, because, there's always those people that argue, so in this case, they argue that some of, the tea's compounds, or the things that make up tea, these chemicals that are in the tea naturally, these components, if you will, they say that these compounds, like, they may also have addictive properties to them. And so they say that, drinking too much can actually do more harm than good. What are your thoughts on this? What are your experiences? Drop it down in the comments, because if this is true, that you can actually become addicted to tea, then this is a big thing, in my opinion. And if so, what can you do about it? That's what we're going to talk about real quick here, because here's ultimately what I found, is that we know tea contains caffeine. There's no surprise there, there's no hocus pocus, we know this. And, we know that caffeine can be addictive. So it's easy to assume that because of that, tea can in fact be addictive. I mean, between coffee and tea, and more importantly, the amount of people that consume these beverages, it's no wonder why it's classified as the most commonly consumed psychoactive substance worldwide. It's a natural stimulant, and the compound that's most often to blame for tea's addictive properties, there's no question, but here's the thing, different types of tea contain different amounts of caffeine. But caffeine in and of itself, like, it's often labeled as addictive because it has a chemical structure that, it's similar, or very similar actually, to what's already naturally found in your body. This chemical known as adenosine relaxes your central nervous system. And because caffeine and adenosine are so similar, adenosine, or is it adenosine? I don't know. You know me with these technical terms, But anyway, because they're so similar in their, chemical makeup, science shows that caffeine can fit into adenosine receptors in your brain. And so what this means, to you is this. Again, adenosine signals your brain that you're tired. Think about that. It says, hey, brain, your body is tired. I'm tired. It's your brain. It tells your brain that you're tired, that your body's tired, and that it's, time for you to rest. That's what gives your body that signal that, hey, or I should say, better said, it gives your brain the signal that, hey, it's time to sleep. It's time to rest. It's time to chill out. So when caffeine jumps into these brain receptors, when caffeine is introduced into the mix, it basically blocks the signals, like it blocks the adenosine from being able to talk to your brain, for lack of better terms. So now that you're, if you're not getting that, quote unquote, hey, I'm tired signal into your brain from your body, you can only imagine what that's going to lead to, because it's being blocked by the caffeine, obviously, and that's why you feel alert and awake. Go figure that. Now, this can also cause your body to release larger amounts of, like, other stimulants like dopamine. This is the feel-good hormone, or the quote-unquote the happy hormone. These rushes of dopamine can also squash or suppress those feelings of tiredness. Again, this adds to the alertness you might feel if and when you're drinking coffee or tea. They say that regularly drinking caffeine-containing beverages like tea may cause your brain cells to make more adenosine receptors to basically overcompensate for the ones that were blocked by the caffeine. So it floods your brains basically, it creates these receptors in your brain so that it can get these signals from your body into your brain. So what happens is that, think about this now. So over time, what happens is that you may end up needing more and more larger amounts of tea to experience that same that same effects from the caffeine. Let me ask you, is this kind of sounding familiar to anyone out there? It's more or less what happens with any drug, really. This includes alcohol and cocaine and things like that. Basically, the more you have, or the more your body takes in, the less or the more tolerant you get towards that drug. So you ever met someone who could easily drink a 6-pack and still walk and talk straight? That's because of this same effect. I'm sure you do. I know I'm not the only one. But that's the same effect that we're talking about here. Where you consume more and more, and the more you consume, the more your body gets used to it. And then the unfortunate part with that is that the more you get used to it, well, the more you need to consume of that drug or stimulant or whatever, the more that just to feel those effects. This could also be why, it'll generally cause you to experience withdrawal symptoms if you quit, let's say, cold turkey, as they say. If you quit out of the blue, abruptly, and go from consuming, I don't know, let's say 10 drinks a day or to zero, you go from one extreme to the other. Ultimately these changes in brain chemistry, because that's what we're screwing with here, is the chemistry in the brain. These changes are why, the caffeine containing foods and drinks are considered potentially addictive. But the question we want to answer here is this: is it a true addiction? That's the question. Now, addictions come in many shapes and forms. And even though this is true, they actually tend to share several clinical symptoms. The ones most often used by health professionals to recognize an addiction include first is that, people tend to continue the use of something even though it's clearly causing them harm. You've probably seen this, it's pretty typical where somebody's on some kind of drug or alcohol and they know it's harming them and they try to stop, but they can't. That's what health professionals call or recognize as a real addiction. And then there's the second is how they persistently desire a drug, or they're unsuccessful in their efforts to control or cut down usage. They try, but they just can't. They literally try to stop, and they want to stop. They have all the intentions to stop. They just physically cannot stop. And the third sign is with someone experiencing withdrawal symptoms when cutting down or even discontinuing use. So these are the people or situations where they're able to stop, but again, it's they physically can't because their body needs that drug or chemical to function. Almost as bad as, as we need water or air to function as a human. That's how bad this chemical dependency becomes. These people that are quote unquote chemically dependent, they need their chemical of choice to function. Now, there is research out there that suggests that some people who regularly consume caffeine, they may develop addiction-like symptoms. So this 3 signs or signals that I just mentioned, there's research out there that has shown people to, basically display one or 3 or however many of these signs or signals. In fact, actually, there's so much research that the WHO has done. They've officially recognized caffeine dependence as a syndrome. Think about that. Look it up. Seriously, always trust but verify. Here's where because I always like to dig up the controversy. So here's the controversy in this is that the APA, the American Psychiatric Association, does not classify caffeine addiction as like a substance abuse disorder. Because I found these research studies, and I started like cross-referencing with the APA and stuff like that, because they kind of like I don't know what you would call them, but they're kind of the people that actually come up with all these disorders, I guess, you know what I mean? The Psychiatric Association, but their main or their main theme, like the gist to most of their studies, is almost the opposite to what the WHO believes, So they basically say that it's currently unclear, and I placed the word currently in between quotations because there are still a lot of studies being conducted, so this is like an ongoing thing, but they say that it's, again, currently unclear. It's not, they're not sure how many people have developed or do develop addiction-like symptoms as a result of drinking tea, and that's what we're talking about here. There's also limited information about whether tea drinkers truly struggle with reducing their intake. Most tea drinkers love to drink tea. It's that simple, in my opinion. You rarely hear a tea drinker talking about, I can't get my day started without my cup of tea. Well, maybe they have, I don't know. I guess I'm not that hardcore of a tea drinker, but I can't say that, I can't say the same about some coffee drinkers. They're a different breed altogether, if you ask me. And then there's me. I love my coffee, but there are times when I just I want a calming cup of tea. Just something that's going to relax me, but not really put me to sleep or anything. You know what I mean? But all that being said, the research basically shows that more research needs to be completed before any definitive conclusions can be made about the addictive properties of tea. So like I said, there's still currently a lot of studies being conducted. So they're still waiting for all that data to come in so they can kind of process that and come to a definitive, conclusion as to whether or not they believe that it does and can have, these addictive qualities or properties, But what the numbers seem to be telling right now is that, drinking as little as 2 to 3 cups of tea per day, this might be enough to cause a physical tea dependency. But again, more research is needed before a true determination can be made. So at this point, the best thing to do is to know what the symptoms or the signs are of, dependency, like what they are in reality, because to be honest, it can be really hard to tell whether you've developed a physical tea dependency or not, So one sign may be that you find it difficult to reduce your intake despite experiencing unpleasant side effects, like headaches or jitteriness when you drink your tea. So you're having these side effects, but you might not realize it, but because it's kind of part of your day. You get to a point where you don't even notice these things sometimes, until it gets really bad. Another way to tell whether you've become addicted, quote unquote, is to check if you experience these withdrawal symptoms. If you were to suddenly stop drinking tea, if you can actually do that, because I know for some people that's kind of difficult to actually just stop just like that. Look for things like headaches, lack of concentration, drowsiness, or you know what I mean? If you can actually stop, look for these things: fatigue, irritability, anxiety, things like that, or if you're finding yourself having a depressed mood, these are all signs and symptoms, that could can and may appear as soon as I forget what the actual number is, but they say a 12 to 24 hours after cutting tea or caffeine from your diet. Think about that. And they say it can actually last for up to 9 days. So that's pretty significant, if you ask me. I don't want to be suffering for 9 days. Now they also say that the severity of these symptoms, like, that usually peaks within those first 9 days, and then it gradually decreases after that. So the question is, at this point right now, is, can drinking too much tea be harmful? Well, what the pros suggest is this. This is what they're saying. They suggest that, drinking up to 12 cups of tea per day appears to not be that safe for people, And the amount actually, like I said, it depends on the variety of tea, Again, certain teas have more caffeine than others. So this 12 cups is not exactly written in stone, So depending on the type of tea that you're drinking, it could be a little more, it could be a little less. You have to be kind of aware of the type that you're drinking and, or I should say the variety that you're drinking, and then adjust accordingly. Not only that, but, some people with some or certain medical conditions, or who are sensitive to caffeine, may benefit from drinking less tea than that, So if your situation is that you shouldn't be drinking much to begin with, or if you have something medically, like some condition or something like that you shouldn't be drinking that much, then that number, obviously you have to reduce that, I've gone into more in-depth detail on this very same topic in the community, but what I can say here is that be mindful of the amount of caffeine that's in your favorite flavor. Again, the different varieties have different amounts of caffeine, so you just have to kind of be aware of what you're drinking and how much it has, and then adjust accordingly. That's pretty much it. Now, what if for some reason you needed to quit or wanted to quit? What do you do then? Because here's the thing. How do you quit your caffeine fix, right? Well, I got a few tips that straight from the pros, and what they say, shouldn't surprise you, or maybe it does, who knows, I don't know. But the first tip is to stop gradually. We've talked about this at length in the past, like going all in when you haven't done something in a long time. And, we talked about how it can backfire. And well, the same goes the same goes here too, when you're trying to quit something, make it a gradual change, not a cold turkey thing, so reducing your intake by a half a cup or 1 cup a day, rather than going cold turkey, like that'll help reduce the likelihood of you experiencing these unwanted or unpleasant withdrawal symptoms. It's been proven. The second tea quitting tip is get enough sleep. Sleep is a magical thing. It helps in so many ways, from focus to energy to recovering from the flu and pretty much everything in between. And so, that also includes quitting your tea habit. It can help reduce your likelihood of experiencing fatigue and, that lack of focus that you usually have that generally makes you crave caffeine. Like these little things, like you can actually subvert these feelings that, of fatigue and the lack of focus and all that stuff by getting more sleep, because a lot of times, that's exactly why you crave the caffeine. It's because of these benefits, the focus, the energy, like getting enough sleep will give you these same benefits. Moving on to the third micro nugget for ditching the tea bag. Drink enough fluids. Emphasis on the enough, because most people will say, they'll say something like, I already drink water. I already drink plenty of fluids, but the reality is you're probably not. Now, if you go by the actual numbers that you should be going by, so replacing caffeinated drinks with the same amount of non-caffeinated drinks, like this will help you stay well hydrated. This will also reduce the symptoms of things like headaches and fatigue. So like all these things that we're talking about that are brought on by quitting, like keeping yourself hydrated will put these at ease. Like it'll tame them down basically. for lack of better terms. And if you're wondering, what are some good alternatives to your caffeinated tea of choice? Well, wonder no more, because there are so many drinks at your fingertips. Drinks like ginger and turmeric or fresh mint leaf infused teas, like all naturally caffeine free. Even like warm water with a nice little squeeze of fresh lemon. Or how about a golden milk latte or a fresh pressed apple juice? Think about it. I had some over here in Cali a few weeks back and it made me feel like a kid again. So good, so yummy. Oh, and how about warm beet juice or carrot juice? Maybe it's your thing. I don't know. Maybe it's not your thing, but find something that works for you. I have a whole list here of things. Almond milk with a dash of cinnamon or nutmeg. I've heard people use this as like an alternative. Not quite my thing. I'm not into the whole almond milk thing, but hey, if that's you, hey, that could be an option. Even here's another one: warm, low sodium broths, vegetable or chicken or something. It's another option. But to be honest, I think if you're trying to cut down or quit your tea addiction, good caffeine-free herbal tea will really do the trick. You can even try mixing a caffeinated and non-caffeinated tea so that you can work your way off caffeine little by little. Options, baby. Options. That's how you successfully reduce or ultimately remove caffeine out of your daily routine. And that's the thing. You're not trying to go cold turkey. You're trying to reduce and then ultimately remove it all altogether. And here's the bottom line. Some types of tea contain caffeine that many people consider addictive. We already know that. I mean, it's a psychoactive compound after all. Yeah, that it is what it is. So it's believed that regularly drinking tea may be linked with dependency-like symptoms in some people. So, but the experts are still debating whether that tea addiction can actually be considered a true addiction. So, that being said, if your current tea intake isn't causing you any issues, there's likely no reason for you to worry about it. However, if you'd like to cut down, again, do so gradually. Make sure to get enough sleep and, make sure to stay hydrated with plenty of caffeine-free liquids like water. And so, the more you know, the better you'll be. Now, with all that said and done, let's switch gears and move on to our second segment with Mighty Man. All right. What we're talking about here? Everything you need to know about good and bad fats. This is a great topic, if you ask me, because, when it comes to dieting and watching your weight and whatnot, like fats get a bad rap. Some of this, it's justified, but some of it isn't. And this is simply because of the certain type of fat, So, for instance, the fat-like substance that we all know as cholesterol, like this is, it's not necessarily fat, but it's fat-like. It's been linked to many nasty conditions from diabetes to cardiovascular disease, to obesity and even cancer. But not all fats are created equal. Let's just get it out there. Some fats are better for you than others. They help to promote good health in your body, period. And so knowing the difference can help you decide which fats to avoid and which to eat in moderation. So you can pretty much get away with anything as long as you do it in moderation. So let's go to the research again. And this is a tricky subject because not necessarily a subject, but the topic, because the research is always evolving on what dietary fat is, or like what they categorize as dietary fat. But some of those facts, like they're pretty clear, For instance, dietary fat, also known as AKA fatty acids, these types of fats, like they can be found in foods from plants and animals. So we have them on both in both spectrums, So if you're one or the other, some specific fats, even they've been linked to negative effects on heart health. But then on the flip side of things, there are others that have been found to offer significant health benefits. So here's the thing: fats they're an essential part for of your diet, for fueling your body with energy, just like protein and carbs. Fats are just as important. Boom! I bet you weren't expecting that, huh? In fact, some of your bodily functions also rely on fat. So, for example, some vitamins require fat in order to dissolve into your bloodstream to provide those nutrients to your body. Let me say that again. Some vitamins require the fat, good fat, I might add, in order to dissolve. And so basically, for your body to process some vitamins, they require fat for that process to happen, for the nutrients to be absorbed into your body. Now, here's the bad part of this. Even though, your body needs some of these special, quote unquote, good fats, these fatty acids as they're known, eating or, consuming too many calories from fat of any type, really, good or bad, it can still make you gain weight. So that's the, as they call it, the catch-22. Different foods and oils contain a mixture of these fatty acids, but the predominant or the dominant type of fat that they contain is what makes them more healthy or less healthy. So there's different foods out there, all have different types of or different mixtures of these fatty acids, like they're made up the same or made up differently, but or of different amounts. But it's the fat that predominantly makes up the food. That if it's a good one, then it's a good food. If it's a bad one, then it's a bad food, for lack of better terms. That's basically it. So if a food or oil has more bad fat, then you consider that food or oil less healthy. And then the opposite of this is true, where if you have a food or oil that is made up of mostly good fat, then that food item or oil is considered to be good. So easy peasy, right? So I'm assuming your first question is, what are the less healthy fats? Because of the two types, let's start understanding, the bad fats first, so we can start staying away from them as much as possible. Now, there's basically two types of bad fats. There's saturated fat and trans fat. These two types of fats they've been found to be bad for your health. There's a reason why they're considered bad fats, And unfortunately, there's quite a few foods that contain these types of fats. So foods like butter and margarine and shortening, beef or pork fat, all of these are solid at room temperature and just bad for your body. So needless to say, trans fat should be avoided at all costs, and saturated fats should rarely, if ever, be eaten. Most saturated fats are animal fats. They're found in high-fat meats and dairy products. So these are things like fatty cuts of beef, pork, lamb, dark chicken meat, and poultry skin, like all this. Also, high-fat dairy foods like whole milk, butter, cheese, sour cream and ice cream, and tropical oils like coconut oil and cocoa butter and palm oil. And lastly, lard. So no Crisco, my friends, because eating too much saturated fat can increase blood cholesterol levels and LDL, or the bad cholesterol levels. And, traditionally, doctors have linked higher saturated fat intake with increased heart disease risk. But, this idea has recently been called into question. So according to Harvard University, researchers now think that saturated fat may not be as bad as they once thought. But despite this, putting the research aside, don't start feasting on deep fried chicken and sweet potato fries, because although they found signs that, it's not as bad as they thought, it still isn't the best choice of fats. Let's just put it out there. In 2015, a review of 15 randomized controlled trials. This review looked at these trials, at the saturated fats in heart disease and how they're linked primarily, and how they interact with one another and whatnot. And what they found was that replacing saturated fat in your diet with polyunsaturated fats can reduce your risk of heart disease. And while this risk reduction is low, these differences could make a difference to your overall health. So, I don't know. Sounds like something to pay attention to. Also, in 2017, a journal article published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, they reported that the risks of the bad cholesterol, the LDL, they reported that it basically had been overstated. So in the past, it was thought that it had, a serious negative effect on your heart health. But, they said that these earlier or older assumptions were slightly exaggerated. Why, I don't know, but that's what it said. So something to think about, This same article from, the British Journal recommends that you compare your total cholesterol level to your HDL or the good cholesterol level instead, because doctors are associating a higher ratio difference between both total cholesterol and good cholesterol. They're associating this, or they're making this connection with, increased insulin resistance and heart problems. Like they're thinking this is a better measure for your health. Now, trans fat or, trans fatty acids, by the way, you'll find these trans fat in foods that contain partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. Say that 5 times fast. These are the worst types of fats for you. And that's why I said earlier that you should avoid them at all costs. So these are foods like fried foods, like French fries, donuts, deep fried fast foods, that deep fried chicken, KFC, margarine, whether stick or tub, doesn't matter. Vegetable shortening, cookies, cakes, pastries, all trans fats. All of it, no good for you. You know that. Stay away from it. Also, processed snack foods like crackers and microwave popcorn, shit like that, And just like the saturated fat, trans fat can raise the bad cholesterol, your LDL. Not only that, but it also lowers or suppresses your good cholesterol, your HDL. So, it's like, that's not good. It's raising your bad and lowering your good. That's just terrible. We're looking for the opposite results. Ideally, you want to lower your bad cholesterol, your LDL. You want to lower that and raise your good, your HDL. That's it. Now, having said that, that's all bad news and stuff, but doctors have also linked trans fat to an increased risk of inflammation in the body. Where do I begin with the horrible effects of inflammation on the body? I think we'll leave that for a separate podcast episode because I don't know. What do you think? Because I could probably go on forever about that. But give me a thumbs up in the comments, or hell yeah, if you want to hear about inflammation, because this inflammation can wreak havoc on your body. It has awful, harmful health effects that include heart disease, diabetes, stroke. Need I say more? I was just thinking, some margarines contain trans fat. You can usually see it on in the ingredients list. If they're made with hydrogenated ingredients, that's basically that. When you see that basically equates to trans fats. That's how you translate that, or that's how they try to hide it, So make sure to always choose non-hydrogenated versions. And, I use margarine as an example because it just came to me, and I know people for the longest time thought that, margarine was a healthy alternative to butter. If you ask me, that's a lot of marketing hype that programmed everybody to believe that. So it's important to ignore the front of the package marketing and always read the ingredient list to be 100% sure and absolutely positive that what you're getting is what you're getting. You know what I mean? Or what they're stating they're giving you, you're getting. You know what I mean? Because labeling laws actually allow food companies to round down to zero to claim quote unquote no trans fats or 0 grams of trans fat. But again, the foolproof way to know is to check the ingredients. If it says hydrogenated oil, it's no good. That's trans fat, no good, period. And now, what about foods with good fats? Are there any? Well, you'll be surprised. There are quite a few. Now, first off, let me say that doctors consider monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat as the more heart-healthy fats. Let's just get that out of the way. Throwing it on the table, there you go. These are fats that are better choices for your diet, and foods that are mostly made up of these healthier fats. Well, they tend to be like liquid when they're at room temperature. Actually, a great example of this is vegetable oil, liquid. So let's talk real quick about monounsaturated fats. This type of fat is super helpful to the body and pretty much present in a variety of foods and oils. So several different foods and a handful of oils have this monounsaturated fat. And, research has consistently shown that eating foods that have monounsaturated fat can improve your blood cholesterol level and lower your risk of, for cardiovascular disease. That's what I'm talking about, So these are foods like, nuts, almonds, cashews, peanuts, pecans, pistachios, monounsaturated fats, walnuts. I can, keep going on and on. Vegetable oils like olive oil or peanut oil, good fat. Peanut butter, almond butter, good. And one of my personal favorites, the almighty avocado, good, and gooder. Is that a real word? Gooder? Joking. I'm joking. Of course it's not. But, regardless, these are all good fats and good for your health. And now, how about the polyunsaturated fat? What's that all about? Well, I hope you guys are taking notes here. These polyunsaturated fats, these are also, they're known as essential fats. And that's because your body, it can't naturally make them. It just, our bodies need to get them from other foods. It's essential that we get these into our bodies. And here's something you may not know, actually. The leading source of this essential fat is polyunsaturated, So the primary way to get that into your body is through plant-based foods and oils. And like monounsaturated fat, the polyunsaturated fat can also lower your risk for heart disease. It does this by lowering blood cholesterol levels, according to the AHA. And one particular type of this fat is called omega-3 fatty acids. It's been specifically shown to be super beneficial for your heart. These omega-3s, they lower your risk of coronary artery disease, and they also help lower blood pressure and protect against irregular heart rates. These fatty acids, these omega-3 fatty acids, come from salmon and herrings and sardines, trout. Should I keep going? Yes, all right. Walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, canola oil, all filled with essential omega-3 fatty acids. Not only that, but you can find polyunsaturated fat that have omega-6 fatty acids in foods like tofu, roasted soybeans, and soy nut butter. Walnuts also have this. Seeds like sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, and vegetable oils like corn oil and safflower oil, sesame oil, sunflower oil, all full of omega-6, all super helpful to your health and all good for your heart. That's why they say they're heart healthy. Good stuff here. Now, here's the bottom line with all this. I'm full of bottom lines today, but no, really. New research has shown that fats that are more on the progression of good to bad than we used to think, And while trans fats are super bad for your health, saturated fats are not currently linked with an increased heart disease risk, but they're not exactly as healthy as mono and polyunsaturated fats. That's what the new research shows anyway. But the biggest takeaway is basically this. If you didn't get anything but this, here's the biggest takeaway that you need to understand with all this jibber jabber, is that there's no denying that healthier fats are an important part of your diet. No denying that, But it's still crucial to moderate how much of them you eat, because all fats are high in calories, period. So too much good fats will still make you fat, for lack of better terms. And I know that's not the PC term, so I'll reel that back in and say that it'll most likely lead to weight gain. How about that? That being said, it's a good idea to incorporate foods that contain both monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats into your daily diet routine. It's a strategy that'll help your heart improve, and it'll improve your quality of life overall. And that's it right there. Overall quality of health. And so with all that said and done, that's it, you guys. That's my show for today. I hope you found some valuable information here. And if nothing else, I hope I've entertained you for a few minutes and was able to bring you a little manly sunshine to your day. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to listen to me. Very much appreciated. On next week's episode, we'll be answering the question, does Metamucil help you burn fat? So fellas, if burning fat is your goal right now, you'll definitely want to tune into next week's episode and find out. And if you love what you heard in today's episode and want more advanced tips that go way beyond what you've learned today, then you, my friend, need to be in the conversation with me and the rest of the community by heading on over to podcast.daspination.com/VIP to enroll in our Insiders community, where I share exclusive, raw behind the scenes stories, tips, and hacks that'll keep you feeling younger and younger each and every day. That's podcast.daspination.com/VIP. Again, that's podcast.daspination.com/VIP. Be in the know starting right now. Also, don't forget to rate me on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you're listening to this episode right now. And leave me a nice, fat, juicy 5-star review and some absolutely beautiful words of why you love the show so much. It really helps me get the word out, and it's honestly the one place where your vote truly matters. Till our next chat, take care now. Bye.